the Muppet Vlog. Now this time we're going to be looking into the 19th episode of Season 5 of The Muppet Show, which features Chris Langham. Now, believe it or not, Chris Langham is not necessarily a celebrity during the time that he appeared on The Muppet Show. In fact, he was actually one of the writers from The Muppet Show. On the side, he also did some writing material which he wrote for Spike Milligan, who also appeared as a special guest star at one point. But in The Muppet Show specifically, he was known to be the only British writer as a part of the team in The Muppet Show, which is rather unusual considering that the whole studio they were filming at the time was set in England. But Chris Langham's work is actually really good, really top-notch when he does work on The Muppet Show, considering that he did receive an Emmy Award for his writing skills on the Carol Burnett episode, and he did also receive 2 awards from the Writers Guild of America just for what he did on The Muppet Show. And then afterwards, he did do some acting roles as well, where he did do some appearances in The Life of Brian, like Monty Python's Life of Brian, and also The Pink Panther Strikes Again. And then later on, he would also do some appearances on TV, like in Not the 9 O'Clock News, Help, Kiss Me Kate, Chelmsford 1, 2, 3, and also The Thick of It, in which he also did receive 2 BAFTA awards for performing on television. Now, going into the episode that he appeared in, you might be wondering, how is it that they decided to hire one of their writers to be a special guest star? Well, it actually has a very interesting history into it, and it has an interesting story. Because the thing is, originally, on this episode, it was supposed to be Richard Pryor who was the special guest star in this. But because he couldn't make it for the recording of this episode, they decided to do this last-minute decision to bring in Chris Langham to be the special guest star and work around that. Basically, the most that you would have in the story is more in the opening, which is a little bit based on a true story, where Chris Langham came in as a messenger, and the special guest star in there was supposed to be, well, who they call Benny Brillstein, the Yiddish Yodeler, but the Yiddish Yodeler ultimately decided he didn't want to do the show, so Kermit had to act quick and decided to bring in Chris as the special guest star in there. And like I said, that's the most that you would get as a story. The rest that would follow, what I would the best way I could describe it is pretty much variety scraps. And the reason why I call it variety scraps is because a lot of the moments that you do see Chris Langham, there is no story that's going on. It's mostly Kermit and the whole Muppet crew trying to take care of Chris Langham, considering that, like, he's kind of new to this whole show business thing, so they try to do the best they can to present him as this special guest star. And as I was saying, when you do see Chris, a lot of his sketches, they're just like little novelty things. These are the kind of sketches that would be more in place on variety shows made for kids, like Zoom or All That. It's not necessarily something that would fit in the Muppet Show, especially like whenever Chris would be on stage, it's just him appearing, and that's pretty much it. You don't see much of other Muppets interacting with him, other than there was at one point when Chris was trying to do this opening, like this magic act where he's trying to get out of a box, but he couldn't, or not a box, but a cabinet, and then there's like this weird magic trick where like he's trying to do the old like card trick with Sam the Eagle, but instead with sausages. It's just like, I get that he wants to do this quirky, over-the-top style, like with his little numbers, but for some reason they don't work. And I don't want to say that it doesn't feel like, I'm not trying to say that he doesn't understand the show. I mean, we are talking about one of the head writers of the series, but it's just that whenever you see him appear, and like when he would do his bits, they don't necessarily fit in the Muppet Show for some reason. Like, he's trying to be the quirky, over-the-top one when you have a show that is filled with quirky, over-the-top Muppets. So it's really out of place in a way where you see this weird new special guest star guy trying to pretty much take the Muppets' acts from him. But this is not necessarily to say that all of it is pretty much devoted to Chris Langham. There are still some actual Muppet moments that is more commonplace in the Muppet Show. A good example is probably the best thing that could come out of this episode is the opening number, where Kermit and Robin would sing the song Friendship from the Broadway show Anything Goes. And then afterwards, he would go and swim underwater, and they both would be with a couple of whales, and they would just go and help them out to like shoo away some whalers so that they could be safe and okay. And then there is another one. Well, you do also get like a quick Muppet News Flash bit, and then you also have Maybe It's Because I'm a Londoner, where it's pretty much this whole elaborate set where you got all the Muppet dogs, well, like all the extra Muppet dogs, not Rolf. Like, you got all these Muppet dogs dressed up from all different nationalities singing a song, Maybe It's Because I'm a Londoner. And then you got another one, which is the GNU, and that's another one that is quite impressive, like the Friendship number, where the GNU is basically this turn-of-the-century song, and what does become a little bit more impressive is mostly the set that they built in the second part of the song, because it starts out in a zoo, and then afterwards, like, you see this, like, British guy where he's on his bed and he's surrounded by his animal trophies, where you see a whole bunch of animal heads, and then suddenly, when the GNU would sing his song, all the other animals would then come to life. And then, like, the most I could say afterwards is pretty much the grand finale that they set up, which is Hawaiian Cowboy. And this is right afterwards when Chris Langham decided to get, well, not decided, but he ended up being stuck in the cabinet, and he said that the show must go on, so he was mostly performing inside the cabinet, but then he found out that he could get out of it. And, yeah, it's mostly a bit of a combination with the good that you got in this episode with the regular Muppet numbers, and then you got, well, Chris Langham just trying to be quirky and over the top and trying to steal the Muppets' thunder. So, yeah, overall, this is easily one of the weaker episodes of The Muppet Show, where the regular bits are the better ones, while the other ones, like, well, the other moments in here, they're really not as good. They just definitely feel out of place, and they just don't seem to fit in something like The Muppet Show. In fact, this is the episode where it feels a lot less like The Muppet Show, because they want to use all the over-the-top moments for the special guest star, which is Chris Langham. And it definitely does feel like it's just a whole bunch of variety scraps, where they got all these tiny little bits in which, like, it's either too short or not as funny to use in any other episodes of The Muppet Show, and they decided to throw it all into this one giant pile, which, honestly, it doesn't really work out as well in this. I mean, conceptually, it could have been a great idea for an episode if they expanded upon the idea that Chris Langham was replacing the special guest star, and maybe they could have had a plot where the guest star, well, like the original guest star, the Yiddish yodeler, could have come in and tried to actually be the guest star, because he doesn't want to be replaced by the messenger. Like, sure, that would have been copying the Star Wars episode a bit, but in here, like, it really is missing something. It definitely needed a lot more, so that could have helped, but overall, as it is, yeah, this episode is just honestly not as good. But anyways, that is pretty much it for this episode, so I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching, and hopefully they will get an actual special guest star in instead of just hiring one of the writers, so that we could probably get a better episode. But we will only know until next time, so see you later, dudes!